Okay, welcome to another video. This is one I'm quite excited about doing actually. So you might remember a little while ago now I checked out a distro called Enzo OS, which at the time was on version 0.3 Dancing Daisy. So I really enjoyed my time with it and I really appreciated the way they'd set up the XFCE desktop. It was one of my favourite implementations of XFCE I'd used in quite a while. However, during my time with it, I experienced quite a few issues and it was still using Ubuntu 18.04 as its base. So I remember saying that I'd examine my thoughts on it once a newer version had been released using Ubuntu 20.04. And as luck would have it, they have just released a new version of Enzo OS 0.4.0, singing Sunflower. So sticking with that flowery themed codename for their distro releases there. So we're in the live environment right now. The ISO was around about 1.8 GB in size and it uses the Ubuntu installer. So I'm going to go ahead and install it natively to my desktop here and then we'll have another look around and then see what's new with this specific version. So we're going to go for English and click continue. And we're going to select English UK, and before we go ahead let's just double check that the keyboard is working as it should. It is indeed, so let's click continue. So we're going to download updates while installing and we're also going to install third-party software. Let's continue. So it's scanning our disks now. It should be a lot quicker than previous videos because I've removed quite a few disks from the main computer here, so it should find them in no time. Perfect. So as usual we have a couple of options here. So we could set up the partitions ourselves doing a manual partitioning sort of layout, or we could go for erase disk and install Enzo, which is what I'm going to choose here. So I've already completely wiped the disk for this video, so we should be plain sailing. So we're going to click continue and we're going to do it on this Drevo here, and then we're going to see how they set up the partitions for us. Okay, so it's a 2-partition layout, very simple. One EFI for your boot files, and then the second partition is going to be mounted at root and the file system is ext4. So let's click continue. Europe London is where we are. Okay, user account time. So I'm not sure what we're going to call this one yet. I might have to just stick with the flower theme and just go for Flower Boy. There we go. Okay, password. And we shall log in automatically like we always do. And it appears this is the last step. So I'm just going to get my stopwatch ready, because then as soon as we click continue I'm going to start the stopwatch and we can see exactly how long this takes to install. Okay, I'm going to pause the video here and then once that's complete we'll take a look at our freshly installed Enzo OS desktop. Okay, and we are back. Installation has complete and it done it in under 3 minutes, so we're looking at about 2 minutes and 42 seconds. So what we're going to do now is restart and boot off disk. Right, so here we are. We've been greeted with an update to do, so let's do that before we have a little look around. It's not a very large one, so it should be done relatively quickly. And it's an update for settings control between XFCE and G settings. So let's go ahead and install now. And let's just see what's actually going on here. So it's even updating snaps as well, so it does have snap support installed out of the box. Cool. Right, let's jump into the welcome screen here and briefly go over what's included in the welcome screen. If I remember, there's not too much here. Yeah. So we have edit user details, which will open up a mugshot, which is of course where you can change your name, last name, email, even your fax. There you go. Change system settings, if I remember, will open up the system settings for XFCE, which of course will house all of your sort of XFCE specific settings like appearance, panel, power manager and all of that good stuff. And then we have install applications. So Enzo OS uses an app store called App Hive, and I do believe in this most recent version they've made some improvements to it and sort of tweaked it so the performance is a bit better, which is going to be welcome because I remember it feeling a bit sluggish when I last checked it out. But let's open it now, but we will go over it in a bit more detail throughout this video, but for now we're going to leave it closed. So then we have a couple of links to learn Enzo and join the conversation. These will just be links to their website, I do believe. There we go, and of course our default web browser is Firefox. So let's close that now. And I do believe that's all we really need to take a look at with the welcome screen there. So I'm just going to start by saying I always smile every time I see the Enzo OS desktop. I think it's a very nice, clean and sleek implementation of the XFCE desktop. So what we're going to do is just briefly go over how they've set things up. So of course in our top panel we have something that I think should be on every desktop environment, which is a global menu. So if we opened up Funa as you can see in your top left now, a lot of the settings there will all be in your top left, and it should work for most applications. It will depend on some having support and some not though. I did notice that when we open up Firefox, it didn't appear to have full support out of the box, which I think is strange, because if I remember, in the last video I did of Enzo, it did have support for Firefox in the global menu. I could be wrong. It might be worth watching that video to double check. I'll chuck a link up there if you want to watch that one too. Okay, I can't remember. Interesting. Right, so let's go into the panel preferences and see what else is in here. So sliding it all the way along and just jumping to items. So app menu is the global menu, notification area, status, pulse audio, XFCE power manager, and then we have Enzo's own date and time applet, which is a very clean and nice looking one. I prefer it to the sort of standard you'll get on XFCE, and it should tie in nicely with the theming. And they have a new dark theme, which is a complaint I had on the last one. As much as I very much like the light theme, I'm a dark theme kind of guy, so we'll definitely be checking that out in just a moment. And then last of all, we have the actions button to log out, shut down, restart, etc. Now going down to the bottom of our screen, we have our plank, which kind of feels like it's been set up in a way to sort of mimic a panel, but I do quite like the way they've done it here. So we're going to start with the application launcher. Okay, so that appears to be new. I don't remember it opening in the middle of the screen there. So by default, we're in a categorized view with your categories to the left and then your applications to the right, and then pressing these little dots you can go to the next page. And then we have a show all applications button there, so it sort of removes the left panel and just has all your applications spread across multiple pages. I quite like the categorized view though, I must say. Now a search bar at the top, let's test that out with Firefox, hit enter, and then that'll open it up for you. So I do believe that's going to be assigned to the super key. It is indeed so. Launching applications shouldn't really require any mouse at all then. So if we went super, Funa, enter, very nice and quick workflow to open up applications there with just the keyboard. I like that a lot. And then to the right of that we have the multitasking view, which if you've used Elementary OS before, you should know exactly what's going on here. So let's open up an application and jump back into the multitasking view. You can of course drag things to and from different desktops, and then whatever window is on that current desktop, it will have the little application icon there as well. And that doesn't really matter how many applications are there. So if we opened up, let's say, a terminal and also Firefox, going back into the multitasking view now, you can see it spreads it all of them 3 applications, and you of course still have 3 application icons in your view there. Very nice indeed. So let's close that off, and let's close that off. And then to the right of that we have Pinny, which I do believe is a new note-taking application. So let's have a look at how this all works. Right, so we have little sort of post-it note kind of notes there, and then we could say flower, and then we could press this, which is going to let us change our name to whatever we want. So that's a new note. We have a change note color. Okay, so I thought it might have popped open a color picker, but it appears to just cycle through a series of colors that are set. And then we have a little settings cog to the right, which allows you to add a note or delete a note. So whatever note that you're on then will delete that current note. So if we add another note, let's add a note. And I do believe it is transparent in the title bar there. It is indeed. So we've got a couple of notes there. So let's try and just do that, and let's say I don't want this one. Can we just delete it? And what does an X do? So an X closes it. So if we open it again, it will save that same note there. Okay, that's pretty handy. It will be good for just jotting down sort of quick little things that you need to sort of remember. But any sort of more deeper note-taking applications, you probably want a different application for that. But just for quick notes to sort of have on your desktop there, I quite like it. So we then have the separator of Frank, and then we have some pinned applications there, and by default it pins Funa, Firefox, Sakura, which is your terminal, and I quite like Sakura on here actually. I've only ever used it on Elementary. I've only ever used it on Enzo OS, but it's quite a nice looking terminal. I'm quite a fan. So we have App Hive. We'll go into that in just a moment, and then of course our settings manager. Now one of the things I like quite a lot about Enzo OS is that it makes the sort of settings a lot easier for things like your dock and your launcher. So for example, if you wanted to go into your settings for your dock here, you'd go control, you'd hold control, press right click, and then go into preferences. Now that feels like a lot of sort of human input just to get to this page here, whereas if you was just to right click on your desktop and go to change desktop settings, it will then open up this application here which has your wallpaper switching, so you can choose all these nice wallpapers, and they do tend to come with very nice selection of wallpapers out of the box. But you also have settings for your dock there as well as your launcher. So at the moment we're on the medium icon size for our dock, so let's try it with the large, very large, and now let's try it with the smallest size. Perfect, that's much more my kind of size. But we also even have the sort of setting of auto hide and Windows dodge here as well. Although I have noticed it doesn't have the theme changer here. So if we go into here and go to preferences, we can also change the theme in here as well. So we have the Enzo theme by default, a few extra ones there like clear and clear 3D. And we also have the Enzo dark theme, which I quite like. I think I probably prefer that to the default, but for now we're going to leave the default on. So let's go back into our desktop settings there, and then you can also jump into the launcher settings. Again, there's not too much in the launcher settings, but you don't really need too much. It's quite a simple launcher. So by default, that's your size of your icons on the sort of normal size there. So let's look at it in large. So I don't think they're too large actually. I think that's a fairly decent sort of size there. And then small is probably going to be what I'm going to leave it on. Small is indeed what I am going to leave it on. Okay, cool. Alright, let's get out of that. So another right click, you've got show desktop multitasking view, so you can get straight into your multitasking just by doing a right click on your desktop. And then we can also jump into the settings there, which again will open up your XFCE settings. So you will notice there is no sort of window manager for XFCE on here, because they use sort of Gala and Mutter and a whole load of different things to get this sort of look that you are looking at right now. So what we're going to do is jump into the keyboard settings and have a look at what the keyboard settings are for sort of moving around, because that's another little interesting application here. So I get serious Apple vibes from the keyboard settings here, even down to the little icon there for the super key. So if we go into shortcuts, we can have a look at what the default shortcuts are. It's been a while. Okay, so workspace view is super and A. Switching is Control, Alt and Directionals, like so. Very nice, quick and smooth animation. So let's close that, but of course you can jump into your Windows shortcuts. So if I remember rightfully, we don't have like a drag and drop Windows split. So let's test out super and left. Perfect, and let's try it with this. There we go. So we might not have Windows dragging to the sort of size of the screens, but you can just do it with your super and directional keys. So that works absolutely fine. Okay, so we have behavior there as well, so we can change repeat keys. Again, very Apple-y vibes here. This is pretty much exactly what the sort of keyboard settings are on Apple Mac OS. Okay, so what we're going to do now is jump into the appearance package and check out the new dark theme. Okay, so we're currently on Enzo Light, so let's now try it with Enzo Dark, but let's open up a few things and see if it changes them very quickly without having to close applications and reopen them. So we're on Enzo Light, let's change to Enzo Dark. Bang, and it done that pretty much instantly, and there was no need to close an application to repaint the window. I really like that dark theme. It's got kind of arc dark kind of vibes to me, but that was a big complaint of mine of the last one, that there was no dark theme out of the box. But we're going to leave it on that. Interestingly, the dock is obviously still on the light theme, so it might be worth chucking that onto the dark theme as well. There we go. I think that looks very nice altogether. Okay, let's close that off. And let's close that off. And of course our icon theme, I do believe, is paper. So it's the paper icon theme, which does tie in very nicely with the rest of the Enzo OS look and feel. So before we jump into Hive and check out the new sort of improvements that have been made here, we are going to install HTOP and do a reboot just so we can get a RAM reading before we add any additional things to it and offset it a little bit. So let's jump into our terminal. And we're going to get HTOP, and we're also going to get NeoFetch. Okay. So I'm going to let that finish, and then we're going to reboot, and then we'll continue where we left off. Okay, so we've just started back up, and as you can see there, the RAM's looking pretty decent, to be fair, at 625 megabytes at a fresh boot. It's just dropped to 615, so you're looking at 600 and some change at a fresh boot before you go crazy changing things and installing a load of stuff, and it has made us a swap file of 2 GB. So let's jump into NeoFetch and let's see what's what. So as you can see there, package wise it's coming with 1593, bearing in mind we did install HTOP and NeoFetch, and as you can see there, your Windows manager is Mutter, Gala in brackets, Terminal Sakura. So what we're going to do now is jump into the Hive application sort of store and have a look at how this all works now. So we know that it has Snap support out of the box, and it appears that it does also have a Snap plugin for you to manage your Snap applications in here as well. So we have a search bar at the top right, and we have categories and installed. So if we jump into categories, let's see what the category view is like. Okay, very nice and aesthetically sort of attractive. And now in installed, you could then go through all of your installed applications, and I guess we could just click on something and then go to uninstall. So it appears we're cutting off a little bit of the window, so let's make it a little bit larger, and there is the star rating system. So let's go on to popular and see what's in the popular section, and we might grab a few things here. So I do believe that we don't have an email client installed out of the box. So if you go into all applications and go into internet, you'll notice that it has the mail reader icon, but because there is no mail client installed out of the box, that will just ask you what your preferred application is, and until you set that, it will open that every time. So let's go ahead and grab an email client and let's get Evolution. So we're going to install that. Now can we, we've got to type in our password. Now can we do other stuff and look at other things while that's installing? It appears that we can. So let's keep going through popular. So Android Studio is there in the popular section, and I believe that is everything in popular. And then we have a little sort of banner there of other popular applications as well. So I also don't think we have an Office application installed out of the box. No, so it might also be worth grabbing LibreOffice Writer. So we can search for it, hit enter, and then that'll open up all these writing applications, and we might get a few doubles because obviously the Snap store, the Snap plugin is there as well. So we've got LibreOffice and then LibreOffice Writer. So let's open this one. And then scrolling down, we should have a sources. There we go. So we have the source there, which is of course Debian. And then we have some additional extensions there that we can grab, which is pretty handy as well. So I guess pressing Debian will open up... So pressing Debian will open up the Snap store for LibreOffice Writer, which of course it won't find, because they, I do believe, bundle it all in the one application of LibreOffice. Okay, that might need a bit of work, but I can see that being very handy for people that like their Snap packages to quickly jump into a sort of a Snap store from the Snapcraft and double check and read sort of what's on the Snapcraft store. So we're going to install the LibreOffice package, and then let's try it with a Snap. I don't usually use Snaps, but as it's all baked in, let's give it a go. And I will be editing this video on this machine, so we're going to grab the Kdenlive Snap. Okay, we're going to let that finish because it seems to be having a bit of trouble now. So what we're going to do before we keep going is jump into the applications and remind ourselves of what it does come installed with. So in accessories, you have not too much there. You have Mousepad as your text editor, Funa of course is your files manager, XFBurn, Plank, which is your dock at the bottom, and Pinny. Games, you just have SGD Puzzles Collection, I do believe. In graphics, you don't have GIMP or anything like that, so you only have Ristretto and Document Scanner. And in Internet, Firefox, and in Mail Reader, we should now be able to set that to Evolution. Perfect. So what that means is every time we press this little button here, it should open up Evolution for us. Let's give that a go. Perfect. So it appears to just be a sort of a icon that doesn't, I don't really need that there. I'd rather just have the Evolution there, so we can go keep in dock, and then that way it won't open up sort of two icons for the one package there. Perfect. And then what else have we got? So in Office now, there is our LibreOffice stuff that we've just installed, and then of course preferences is mainly going to be your XFCE preferences, but there might be a few stuff that's sort of specific to Enzo OS there. Panel profile, session and startup. So while we're here, let's see what's in our application auto start. So we can disable the welcome message, we don't need that anymore. IM launch, Plank, network manager. Okay, I'm going to leave all of that there. I'm not too fussed about all of that stuff. And now let's finish off with the applications and then install Kdenlive. So in sound and video, your default media player is Parole, which isn't too bad of a media player. I'd probably still choose VLC over that. And then Pulse Audio and XF Burn. And in system tools now, yeah, pretty standard stuff there, not too much going on. So let's get out of that. And now let's jump back into App Hive and see if we can have a bit more of a look around. So let's now search for Kdenlive. Now it will come up with a couple of different packages here, as we do have the Snap plugin. So one of them will be the Snap version and another will be the repo version. So let's have a look. So if we scroll down, we can see that this is the Snap version, and we are going to get this version because when I'm not on KDE sort of desktops, I don't like pulling in all the KDE stuff to install Kdenlive. I'll usually always use an app image, but we're going to go for the Snap. And now clicking that, it should open up the Snapcraft store for Kdenlive. Perfect. Let's see what people are using it on. Okay, the most used is Ubuntu 20.04. Cool. So let's get out of that and let's go ahead and install the Kdenlive Snap image. Let's install that now. Lovely. So what is the keyboard shortcuts for moving things across different desktops? I forgot to check that out, didn't I? Let's see if we can guess. Yes. Okay, so it's Shift, Control and Alt, and then that will move your focus window onto the next workspace there. Nice. Right, let's see what some of these applications look like with our nice dark theme now then. So we have installed LibreOffice. Let's open up Parole. There's Parole, there's not really too much going on there. Let's open up LibreOffice Writer. And let's open up... Oh, that doesn't look too good, does it? It's got the old sort of styling there. Let's close that and change the tool user interface to a tabbed. It's a bit better. We're going to leave it like that. Okay, let's close that off. Now I also like having the sort of Windows control buttons to the top left there because I'm quite used to it being there from other desktop environments that I use. Okay, we've got a notification letting us know that Kdenlive has been installed. Now one of my complaints actually that I had in the last sort of series of videos that I did with it is full screen applications with the dock set up in the way that it is. So it feels like you have a lot of wasted space here and it is just sort of the rest of your wallpaper. So clicking that you can still do your sort of options there. So what I would tend to do is to sort of make it look a bit nicer and then to use the whole of the space in a more sort of reasonable way as I'd change the sort of auto hide. So if we go into preferences here, now we're going to do it this sort of Enzo way as well. So if we go into the dock here and then click this, so these are the options here and I wonder if they appear any differently. So if we go into behavior on here, so we have IntelliHide, Auto Hide, Dodge Maximize. So I do believe they've just changed the names of certain things. So they've called it Focus Window is Maximized, Focus Window overlaps the dock, Any window overlaps the dock, and Not being used. So what I'm going to do is assume that Focus Window Maximize means that when a window is maximized, it will then auto hide, and of course hovering your mouse over it will then reveal it. And that's pretty much what I would go for, because then it looks nicer and you're utilizing the whole of your screen there. So let's get out of that. But you could of course have it to dodge anything that overlaps it. So let's say you had a window close to it, it would then hide it again like so. And now let's go back to, so there is Not being used, which is basically auto hide, which is one I actually like the least, to be honest with you. I quite like having my dock there when there's nothing obstructing it, so I can very quickly see what's running and see what isn't and open a new thing, etc. So I think the best one is going to be Focus Window is Maximized. Perfect. Okay, let's jump back into App Hive. So our Kdenlive has now completed, so let's get off of that. And now let's open up Kdenlive. It will take a few seconds longer than the other ones because it is of course a Snap package, and on their first boot on a sort of running system takes quite a while. We should be able to pin that straight to our dock there, and we can indeed, so let's keep that in the dock. Come on Kdenlive. There we go, we've got the splash screen. Perfect, and I will be editing this video on here, and as you can see it's picked up that we have got a global menu there and it's working perfectly out of the box, which makes my life a whole lot easier because that is the workflow that I'm used to on KDE. So let's close that off now. And let's have a look at some of the new wallpapers that we've got, if there are any new ones. Let's go to change desktop background. So we have quite a nice selection. I do believe this was one of the ones that we used in the previous video. Let's have a look at this one here. And we're going to leave it on this one for the rest of the video. So to finish it off then, what we're going to do is jump onto their website and see if we've missed any of the new features that we might need to look at. And then we're basically going to wrap it up there. But here we go. Let's go on to the blog. There we go. So Pinny is the new note-taking application that we've just taken a look at there. Hive. So Hive generally features in our releases as being an application manager. It's integral to our operating system, helping users to search for and install programs. So they've added the app stores that we took a look at. So they've added the performance, as it was a bit of an issue, and I can attest to that being a bit of an issue. And then there is the new dark theme that I'm very much a big fan of. So I think we're going to wrap it up there, but that's been my sort of refreshed look at Enzo OS. Now, I still wouldn't say it's daily driver ready, but I think it has the potential to become daily driver ready. The reason why I say that is because I do believe it's still actually in beta. So if you're going to download here, it will open up SourceForge. And we'll let it try and as you can see there, yeah, the status is still in beta. So although it's a very sort of nice looking and handy to use desktop distribution, it's still got a long ways to go before it can sort of replace whatever you're currently using as your main daily driver. But that's been my sort of updated look at Enzo OS. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.